right? Now, with that background, let's just go through a quick introduction of this law. This is a 1977 law, which actually was enacted and implemented, but not with a full force till the dawn of this century. But since 2001, government started enforcing it very, very stringently. They invested hundreds of prosecutors. They did deep studies of transactions of so many US listed companies, and then they started enforcing this this law very stringently. This law governs the business of corporations and MSCs for the transactions outside US. So the law is titled as Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. It is not titled as US Corrupt Practices Act, right? So by nature, it is designed to prevent the bribery in the course of businesses done by the US companies outside the US. So for a business in India, it's a foreign business for a US corporation. And while doing that business, this law intends to prevent any risk of bribery. And that's how the law is designed. Now, this law applies to US companies, the listed companies, unlisted companies, but it applies to their subsidiaries in India, the private limited companies for whom the US or other group companies may be shareholders, as well as their employees, directors who are employed in India, their distributors, third-party consultants, any third-party intermediaries, advisors who are basically representing this US company and their brand in any of the outside US territory, including India. So if you generally see the expansion of jurisdiction is quite wide, and a lot of people who are either working for the US companies in India or serving as distributors, consultants, service providers, they automatically come under the umbrella of application of this law. So there are two important provisions and there are two important authorities, right? And I will take you in the coming slides about in details. So Department of Justice is the department responsible to enforce certain provisions in this law, and then Securities and Exchange Commission is another body, and I will walk you through more details. There are two major provisions of this law that impact us that we are going to go through. First set of provisions is called as anti-bribery provisions, and second set of provisions is books and records provisions. So let's move on one by one. DOJ, as they popularly call, they implement the anti-bribery provisions. There are a host of provisions which I have tried to break down in simple rules for all of you. Basically, it is a crime for persons and companies who are subject to US jurisdictions, right? And when I say US jurisdictions, I mean as I said in the previous slide, the employees, directors, distributors, service providers of Indian subsidiaries of the US companies, not just the global corporation executives sitting in the US. It is a crime for all of them to either pay or promise either cash or anything of value, directly or indirectly, to a foreign government official. So for a US company, an Indian government official is a foreign government official. For what? For obtaining or retaining a business or directing a business to a third party. Now, this might look like simple 4 or 5 bullet points, but if you go through the details, which we will, it has vast interpretation, it has vast expansion. And the way the language of the law is designed is deliberately kept it vague, confusing, and all pervasive, so that any creative design or transaction of bribery can also then be investigated under it. So again, as I said, application to so many stakeholders, I won't repeat this. This is how the provisions are, and we'll go through the elements of these prohibited payments. Right now, let's go one by one. Anything of value. Now, the name of the bribe is not a cash or a gift or a discount or a free product. The name of the bribe here is anything of value. And anything of value, as you can see here, has wide interpretations depending on the industry you are playing, right? In healthcare industry, it can be a sponsorship to healthcare professionals if there is a quid pro quo. In other industries, there can be charitable contributions, political donations, foreign trips to government officials, entertainment expenses. People can do whatever, right? Gold coins, complex electronic gadgets, so on and so forth. So anything of value is purposely designed to be the name of the way improper payments could be made, and that's how you can see it can be interpreted. Now, use of third party is an important element here. A lot of people may think that if I am a senior employee in charge of operations of a particular Indian subsidiary of a US company, and I know that when I joined the company, I undertook FCPA training. I know I cannot give bribe. I have the training. I have internal program. So what I'll do is I'll appoint this distributor, who's a smaller businessman who may not be so much organized, and who may be representing other Indian and US companies. And then I will invoice products to him. I will invoice him at a low price so that he has enough profit margin between his purchase price and sell price. Sometimes I'll give him free product, and with that I'll create enough cash in his books. And then when my customers ask for bribe, I'll ask him verbally by making a phone call. I'm smart. I will not create an email, right? And say, go and take care of the customers, right? Now, because it is a request coming from a senior executive in India, distributors might sometimes oblige. And this is where I would like to caution, we have representatives from Indian companies and US companies in this forum. This is where it is important to understand that the distributors and third-party intermediaries, it could be channel partners, uh, consultants, service providers, contractors, and so on. When we sign a service contract with the principal company, we sign it with the principal company and not with an individual, right? And company would always secure their interest by making sure that the terms and conditions are not only clearly laid down, there is a clear mention of anti-bribery policy, and the service provider has agreed and accepted that anti-bribery policy. Means there is a promise to do business without bribery. And then on the top of that, someone agrees to say, okay, I will oblige you because you have appointed me as a distributor, because if I am able to do so much of business, and I'll quote unquote please the customer, by using the cash that I have, that kind of risk will create liability for both the parties. It will create liabilities for the third parties who are actually allegedly engaged in the transaction, but at the same time, there is no escape for the principal company because of either ignoring that my channel partner is getting into an improper payment, by avoiding any direct risk by saying, look, my compound is clear. The garbage is not in my compound, but the garbage is my distributor's compound. I would like to say here that this analogy doesn't work, that my premises is clear and I don't know what is happening in my distributor's books. There is a liability for the distributors, channel partners, third-party intermediaries' actions back to the principal company. It doesn't matter, they know or they should have known. And they know or they should have known is a clear language used by the regulator, because there is a duty that the principal company should be alert enough to make sure that the third parties do not engage into this action of bribery. So use of third party may be a way to facilitate reach and expansion in a vast market like India, where company cannot set up offices, so you have to use distributors. But this is not a mechanism to do those acts which company is prohibited to do. The rules of the games clearly apply to the principal company as well as the distributors. And here there is no excuse that I don't know what my distributor did, or I am not directly engaged, but my distributor may have done something, so please excuse me. That's not an acceptable excuse. So use of third party is an important element. Now, there are two exceptions here. Facilitation payments is, for doing the routine government actions. Now, this is a concept which is different than the US law, compared to the Indian law, where if a government officer is supposed to do something in the routine course of their business, in order to expedite that, certain amount of facilitation payments is permissible under that law. That exception is clearly laid down in the law. Now, there is a requirement that this officer should be asked to do whatever that officer is supposed to do in the routine course of law, right? For example, if an officer is supposed to award a tender based on certain specifications and prices and etc., and in the normal course, if that officer would award the tender to party A, because party B has given them some money, if he gives the tender to party B, then that cannot qualify as what the officer is supposed to do in the routine course of business, right? But what I would normally do in a 15 days time or 1 month's time, I got a request to do this in 1 week, and it is exactly the same act and exactly the same process followed, then there is no, it doesn't qualify as a bribery under this law, and those kind of facilitation payments are permissible. It is a different concept that we may not have heard, but that concept exists in FCPA, provided there is a clear reasonable details of the payments mentioned, amount is reasonable, and there are accurate narrations of those transactions found in the books of companies, so that it creates a confidence in the minds of regulators and auditors that this payment is really a facilitation payment. So it is very cautious approach that a lot of companies take. Although it is written in the books of law, it may not be, it may not be directly in practice in many companies. The second exception in practice, I would say, is de minimis payments. Again, it is not written in the language of the law, but typically regulators tolerate, smaller amounts, smaller value of gifts and hospitality expenses if they are minor, if they are customary, if they are given in the normal course to many customers. And this can qualify like the brand reminders. Sometimes people can give diary on the occasion of New Year's. A lot of companies nowadays are staying away from brand reminders and gifts also. Gifts are strictly controlled, but going by the language of the law, de minimis payments such as gifts and hospitality expenses are generally tolerated if there is no corrupt intent. Again, the concept of quid pro quo is very clearly coming here again. If the payments are made in the normal course, not because you are my customer and I want to make you happy, I want to give this as a reward of the past business or inducement for the future business, so so customer, please take it. If that is the intent, then there is a clear connection between the gift or the hospitality expenses and the business. But if there is no connection, if this is given to hundreds of customers, this is normally given everywhere, this is customary, the amounts are smaller, and it is clearly written in the books, then it might be tolerated. Now, both these last points, the facilitation payments and these de minimis gifts are, it requires prior review from relevant functions such as finance, legal compliance, and any other relevant functions to make sure that the type of gift item is acceptable, the financial value is capped, the gift is reasonable, it is customary, and most importantly, there is no quid pro quo or there is no corrupt intent. So a lot of companies have gift policy which lays down the types of gifts and the value of gifts. The list is not exhaustive but illustrative, and it is expected that before giving such gifts, a certain approval has to be taken. And then when you give those gifts in your books, you're supposed to call it as a gift and clearly narrate why this gift is given. If these two controls are followed, then some companies have taken liberty to use these provisions that are listed here.
Welcome to Complinity Technologies. Complinity is India's leading governance, risk and compliance software helping companies to manage their compliance, contracts, litigation, legal updates, inter-financial controls and more. Complinity is a one-stop shop for all GRC needs. With our proprietary 12 GRC modules and real-time legal updates on 2,000+ laws and 24,000+ compliances, all in an integrated platform that is easy to use with automated alerts and risk management capabilities, is why compliance managers, general counsels and chief financial officers choose Complinity every time. Join the most innovative and prestigious brands that use Complinity. Automating your compliance management. Request a demo at complinity.com.